Hello and welcome to another Small Gold live stream. Tonight is Tuesday, November 20th, 2018, and tonight's topic, Russian gold reserves swell to 2,065 tons. That is tonight's topic. We're going to do a deep dive into Russian gold reserves, central bank gold reserves. But first, let's check out the gold and silver markets and the crypto markets. Lots of things going on there. So, gold, well, first of all, the equity markets took a big hit again today. The Dow down 551 points. We're going to talk about Trump's reaction to that particular move. The 551 points now brings the Dow below 25,000, down to 24,465. And that's down 2.21%. That was the biggest of the equity market declines. The NASDAQ only was down 1.70%, down 120 points, down to 6908, and the S&P down 1.82%, down to 2641, and a loss of 48.40. Now, the gold market, we saw yesterday that the stocks had gone down and the gold market went up just a little bit. But today, down a little bit, not too much. So we were down about 250 and down 0.2%. Not a big day, but again, if you were holding other assets as they were plummeting, gold was a safe place to be. As was, I would imagine, silver. Well, silver wasn't too bad today. Didn't do as well as gold. Went down nearly 1%. But for silver, if you can keep the losses down to under 1%, you're ahead of the game, it seems. Silver closed around 1430. Currently trading, where are we trading at? We are at 1427. So we're down from the close. So down 11 cents, went down a little bit. And what did that do to our unsustainably high gold-silver ratio? Well, let's take a look. Did it go up or did it go down? No, it went up again. Went up a little bit. Opened the day under 85. Closed the day over 85. Now, I want to make a quick point about this gold-silver ratio. There's too many people that still believe that somehow it's relevant. It's not. The gold-silver ratio was relevant when we had what's called a bimetallic standard. And governments used to try to fix and to accommodate those that wanted inflation. They wanted to put the silver in there. They didn't want it to be just based on gold. So they would fix the ratio. They would fix it. It wasn't market-driven. It wasn't based on what people wanted. It was based on the government having to fix the ratio, just like they had to fix the price of gold at $35 an ounce from 1934 to 1971. They used to fix the gold-silver ratio. Now, the gold-silver ratio is important when both metals were monetary metals. They're not monetary metals anymore. At least silver isn't at all. We've gone through this many times. Silver has monetary properties, was money. I'd call it dormant money today. It has all the properties of money. It's divisible, it's fungible, it's valuable, it's desired, but it's not used as a medium of exchange. It could be, but it isn't. Gold, on the other hand, has all those properties, but also is somewhat used as a medium of exchange because central banks do hold it, and you can see in examples like Venezuela where they will use it to pay off debts and so on. They may convert it to fiat, but it is a store of value. It is somewhat of a of money. And also, the other difference between silver and gold is far more desired than silver. You got your gold standard, good as gold. Historically, gold is, as they say, the metal of kings, and silver is pocket change. Again, it's not a cut on silver. It just justifies the ratio. Relative rarity is not determinative of value. We talk about this all the time. You can think of many instances where something is rarer than something else, but it's not more expensive, like platinum. 10 times less comes out of the ground than gold. It's cheaper than gold. Gold is the premier metal, as Alan Greenspan once said, which no fiat currency can compete. Don't say that about silver. But I thought of this one today. Now, you guys, we were talking the other night about Indian silver demand. And we determined the biggest, well, we didn't determine, we looked at data that showed that the biggest demand for all that silver flowing into India is jewelry and silverware. Indians are unique in that they like silver. They take up 70% of the world's demand for silverware. And they like silver jewelry. But they're not preparing for the collapse. They're not stacking. They like silver. They can afford silver. It's a wealth impact. Same with Chinese and gold. They buy gold because they can. They like it. Gold jewelry. Outward ostentation, show of wealth. Those are the main drivers for both gold and silver. Gold's number one demand is not central banks are stacking gold. We're going to get into that. The biggest demand for gold on an annualized basis is jewelry. Then investment, and then whatever central banks pick up 7, 8, 10%. Silver's biggest demand is industrial globally. However, in India, it's silverware and silver jewelry. And then they use some for industry. They have cell phone businesses. They have a lot of solar. But still, the larger amounts come from the use of silverware and jewelry. Now, I thought of this. With investment demand for silver coin rounds and bars is about 10-15%. That's the overall demand. Then you've got industry, and then you've got the silverware. That's globally. That 10 to 15% of investment demand really has very little impact on the supply-demand dynamics. And as you remember from the other night when we showed the pie charts, at one point in 2015, investment demand was kind of getting to be a bit of a driver of price because it got up to almost 25%. But that's was only temporary. The general average over the last 20 years for investment demand has ranged from 5 to 25%, with an average of about 10%, which means it's not that much that it is not considered, it's not used as, you may use it as that as a store of wealth or value, but that's not the main use of silver. The main use of silver is to put in electronics, to put in Indian jewelry and silverware, and to slap in the solar panels. It's the same with gold. Think of it this way. Maybe you don't know this, but you do know, because I've mentioned a lot, that gold's number one demand is jewelry. But did you know that gold has a relatively significant industrial demand? It is used in space technology because it doesn't tarnish when they use the electronics. There are a lot of industrial uses for gold, and there probably would be more, except it's too expensive. However, according to the World Gold Council, gold industrial demand is anywhere between 8 and 12%. Well, no one ever talks about the massive uses for gold, and it's going to drive the gold skyrocketing. Why would it? It's not that big of a deal. There are plenty of uses for gold, but it's not touted that way because it wouldn't make sense to tout it that way. It's a small percentage of the overall gold demand. Similarly, the same with the investment, the central banks are buying gold. That's the same thing. That's not a major portion of gold demand. The big drivers of gold demand are Chinese and Indian physical gold demand, and the same with silver. But it's not for stacking and prepping and preparing for the collapse because they know what is coming. No, they're buying jewelry. It's the biggest thing. Indians, Chinese, by the tens of millions, are buying gold and silver jewelry. That's your demand right there. That's the biggest demand. They're not hunched in front of their computer or on their cell phone listening to some YouTube channel telling them silver is rarer than gold. They're not listening to that. They don't know about that. The gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. The gold-silver ratio should be 9-to-1. So I'm going to go out and buy silver jewelry. No, they're not listening to that. That's what happens. I think people have this mindset when you watch a channel, and maybe it has 300,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. You think everyone knows this. Or maybe you don't. You think you're part of some special elite group that knows all about silver. You actually don't. It's missing. I wouldn't call it disinformation, but it's incomplete information. Silver is not a major monetary metal. They don't use it to make coins anymore. No one transacts in it. And the demand for coins, rounds, and bars is only 10-15% of the overall demand. Similarly, Gold's industrial demand, it's very useful, but it's only about 10%, and they don't drive the demand for either metal. But this thought will continue to persist that somehow the gold-silver ratio has to come down, because historically, it is different this time. Historically, we had a bimetallic standard. You had gold and silver both used as money. You don't have that today. All right, let's go over to the cryptos. Now, this is a very interesting day. Today, so yesterday was the second big smash down of the cryptocurrencies. And it looked like it had settled off, and then it just went haywire again and went down like another 15% or so. And then it took a bit of went up, it went down, but still overall, Bitcoin right now down to less than 10% over the last 24 hours at 43.25. Bitcoin Cash down 10%, was down even more. It's at 241 now. It's down closer to 220. Ethereum all the way down to $1.25 at $125. That's down 13%. Litecoin similarly down 13% at 31.66. That almost got under 30, and I think Bitcoin almost got below $4,000. Maybe tomorrow, we'll see. And then Ethereum Classic 532 down 14.25%. Now here's an interesting thought. We'll get your comments on this one. So remember, I've been saying that Wall Street wants this big crypto bubble and that they're preparing for it. Well, obviously, the lower the price is, the more they can pump a bubble back up. You don't want to pump it up from $20,000. You want to pump it from as low as you can. And interestingly enough, we're getting a lot of these regulatory actions happening. And now they're looking at Tether. The two things the Securities Exchange Commission is doing, they're looking at Tether, and they're trying to say, well, did Tether push the use of the Tethers, which is the stable coin from Binance, it's somewhere in Asia, did they use that to make the crypto bubble go all the way up to 20,000? That's one thing they're doing. The other thing they're doing is they've issued guidance on all these unregistered ICOs, basically telling them give some money back, which is probably all gone, or, face civil penalties. Maybe they'll bring in the DOJ and they'll have criminal penalties. So effectively, the SEC is saying, look, a lot of bad stuff happened in 2016 and 17. A lot of bad stuff. Lots of bad stuff. And you know why? None of this stuff was regulated by us. We weren't involved. We didn't have registered ICOs. We didn't have stable coins that were backed by the FDIC. We got those now. But this was a real mess. This 2017, this party went on and we had nothing to do with it. We didn't regulate it. And I think now, they're looking into this. I think their point of view is this. By the way, Tether didn't drive every ICO higher, even if Tether was involved. And I have a theory on Tether, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But let's say Tether was absolutely involved and they used Tether to drive the price of Bitcoin up. Wouldn't necessarily drive up every other altcoin. It wouldn't drive up every ICO. So there's a bit of a, I don't know if they're a scapegoat or not, but clearly we now have competition with registered stable coins emanating out of the United States, backed in some cases by companies like, and banks like Goldman Sachs. So if Tether can be the bad guy, if Tether can be the Mount Gox, have at him. And if Coinbase can be the new face of regulated exchanges or backed, I think that's what they want. So my view is they need to clear out all these bad actors, these non-regulated stable coins like Tether, these unregistered ICOs, because the SEC wants you to register with them. And so do Wall Street banks in Silicon Valley. They want to bring registered ICOs to market. And before they launch their regulated stable coins, crypto exchanges, and storage solutions, then they can market their crypto products and beam, we made crypto safe for investing. We're doing God's work. And I think that's what's going on here. I think they're trying to say, look, this was a big bad bubble, and it went on because there was just no regulation. It's the Wild West. And yes, we understand that cryptocurrencies can be innovative and a good source for raising capital, but we're going to have to clear this stuff up first. So I think that's what they're doing. I wouldn't be surprised if prices go even lower. They do want to create a bubble. I'm convinced of that. But they want it to be their own bubble, and they want it to be done so they make the money, they set it up, And they want to basically annihilate all the old remnants of the prior crypto infrastructure, which used to include things like Mt. Gox and all these bad ICOs and Tether and so on. All right, before we get into the Russian thing, I just want to alert you to a very important press conference today with Donald Trump. And the reason it was important, he touched on a number of topics that are of importance. Before I get to that, I just want to quickly show you this. This was unbelievable before we get to the Trump press conference. YouTube has, I don't know, I don't even understand how they came up with this. But YouTube, I don't know, there's some law or something they want not passed. I don't know, maybe it censors the internet and they don't want that. They're actually saying, imagine if you couldn't watch the videos you love. Coming from the company that shuts down videos. Yeah, I guess we can imagine that. And I said, tweeted with no sense of self-awareness. I didn't read the comments, but the ratio on that one must be pretty high. I'm sure it did appear. I'm sure that thought occurred to many other than just myself. Okay, let's get into the Trump press conference because it's very important to some of the things we're going to talk about. So, first of all, you know about this Khashoggi guy. He was a sometime part-time Washington Post reporter, American resident, foreign national. He had been apparently associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And it looks like all indications, including Trump's own knowledge, that he was killed officially by Saudi Arabia. So the normal diplomatic protocol would be for the West to say, we respect human rights and we're going to ban and boycott Saudi Arabia until they repent and stop killing their own people and stuff like that. Trump issued a statement today and said, no way, America first. He didn't go as far as to say we condone the killing of him. He said we don't like it, but he made it very clear we're not going to give up hundreds of billions of dollars in military contracts that put thousands of people to work. And then if we were to back off, that Russia and China would take this business. So he wasn't anywhere. He basically said America first. And yeah, they did that. But Saudi Arabia is working with the United States on being against Iran. Saudi Arabia is working on improving output of oil because he wants lower oil prices. Very bold statement. Okay, the other thing he said, which is important, because that has to do with oil prices, and they asked him about the stock market. You know, what about the stock market? What about the stock market? And he said, oh, we're doing very well. We don't have a problem. Then he said, we have a Fed problem, and that the interest rates were too high. Now, he didn't go as far as to say, I'm going to do something about it, but he clearly indicated again, publicly speaking about the Fed, he did not like the higher interest rates. Then, the other day, he issued an order saying that anyone who sneaks across the border illegally will not be allowed to apply for asylum, and we're going to toss them out. And he had, I guess it was about a year ago, had also done the same thing with a travel ban and said that I'm going to make sure that people from these countries are not allowed. The Ninth Circuit said, no, you can't do that. He said, yes, I can. The statute is very clear. I can keep any class of foreign nationals out of the country at my discretion for whatever period of time I say. Ninth Circuit said no. They put an injunction up, went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, no, yeah, you can do that. Well, today, the Supreme Court said, another Ninth Circuit judge granted an injunction saying, no, you cannot tell people who come across the border in violation of your order that they can't apply for asylum. So Trump had a fit at the press conference. He was saying the Ninth Circuit's bad. Something has to be done about them. That anytime there's an issue, they go run into the Ninth Circuit. They always win over there. Then it has to go to the Supreme Court where they strike it down. It's an Obama judge. And he kept indicating he was going to do something. Now, I don't know what he can do. One thing he can do is I know there's at least 3 or 4 more appointees to the Ninth Circuit that maybe Flake will be able to postpone till the end of the year because he says he's not going to recommend any. Well, they can vote on them anyway. He's not going to recommend any of Trump's judicial appointees unless he signs some Mueller thing protecting him. But one thing he can do is get those judges appointed, which he will, either by the end of the year or get them first order of business in January. But that still won't stop rogue judges from making these types of determinations. And it really is a rogue judge, because it's one judge in the entire country can decide that what the president does isn't constitutional, or make up some reason why it isn't. And Justice Clarence Thomas had written in the travel ban case, he agreed, he voted in favor of overruling the Ninth Circuit, but he also said in a thing called dicta, which is non-binding, he said, look, and he wrote like 20 pages about how I don't even know how a district court can even have this power, and he was trying to come up with a way to basically take it away from them. So who knows, maybe when they challenge this case, they won't just challenge the merits of the case, meaning that, look, I have the right under the statute to keep people out of the country. Yes, Congress has the right to have asylum statutes, but this overrides it. I think beyond just ruling on the merits of the dueling statutes, maybe even say, you don't even have a right to grant an injunction in this case. Your court doesn't even have the proper jurisdiction. Who knows? But that's going to probably be a big deal if he actually tries to intervene with the court or intervene with the Fed. Or came out today that in April this year, he wanted to just prosecute, this is, sources say and all this other stuff. He hasn't commented on this yet, that he wanted to just go after, prosecute Clinton and Comey, and that his outgoing attorney told him he shouldn't do that, couldn't do that, he would be impeached. And the final thing on this is, he's also submitted written responses to the Mueller probe on Russian collusion. Now, he didn't answer questions on obstruction because he says he didn't obstruct justice. But what's interesting is now with this new, he was going to try to prosecute Comey and Clinton. I'm sure this is coming out now because they want to revive the obstruction of justice charge. But the interesting thing there is that Rosenstein wrote a memo telling him that he should fire Comey, which is odd because that makes Rosenstein a witness to the obstruction, and yet he was overseeing Mueller. But the other thing is, now that he's not overseeing Mueller, if he actually wrote that and they want to go after Trump for obstruction of justice, well, then they got to bring in Rosenstein because he wrote a memo saying he should be fired. So that's going to get very interesting indeed. But now I think it's time to move on to the topic of the night, which is Russian gold reserves swell to 2,065 tons. Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent.
This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
That is indeed moronic. All right. Let's get into Russia. Now, this one gets everyone excited if you're in the gold community because it shows that Russians are smart and they are buying gold. In fact, they are buying gold hand over fist because they know what's coming. Well, they've been buying gold hand over fist for the last 3 years. And we have not seen any significant movement in the price. Why? Because the amounts that they're buying, they may look big, they're not big. As we'll see tomorrow, we're going to go through Indian gold imports. Those numbers are big. They are big. 900 tons a year. Maybe this year they'll do 800 tons. If you look at Russia, it's taken 4 years for them to get that type of 1,000 tons. 3.5 years. Now, what Russia's buying is significant-ish, but you got to put it in the context that they mine 3,200, 3,400, 3,600 tons of gold a year. And there's significant gold stockpiles all over the place. So this isn't really pinching supply when you hear this nonsense. Oh, the market's tight. It's tight. I got to wait to get my gold. Go ahead and order 20 gold eagles right now. I guarantee you any bullion dealer will have them. You can order a lot more than that, I'm sure, and you can get them. The market is not tight. And Russia is not adding to it. Because remember, Russia buys from its own supply. But I just want to look at this chart here. It does indicate that Russia is converting its rubles into gold. And the reason they do that is twofold. Ruble is a horrible currency. Ruble loses value. You might as well turn a ruble into gold if you're not going to take dollars anymore and you want to get rid of the dollar. You're trying to de-dollarize. That's not going to crush the dollar. It just means that Russia does very little trade with the U.S. Russia doesn't need dollars. It needs to preserve its reserves. And best way to do that is to hold, they may hold dollar currency. They don't have to hold treasuries. But it makes total sense for them to do what they in Kazakhstan are doing. If you have gold in your backyard and you have trash cash in your pocket and you can go back there and make a quick exchange for your trash cash for the gold, you'd be out of your mind to ship the gold out and get paid in rubles or whatever, or dollars that you don't want. So it makes sense what they're doing. And they're now doing it in record amounts. Now, record gets a lot of people excited. I mean, I can go out and buy a record amount of gold for myself. I can go out and buy an ounce of gold. But that you have to put it in context. So what? An ounce of gold is not going to change anything for the world. Nor are these 227 tons. However, it's important to note that Russia is doing this because you can see there was a period of time where they weren't doing it. You could see on the chart the negatives. They were selling gold during that period. The gold was cheap. So it does indicate that there is something afoot. That central banks in many respects are aware of the debt that's out there, are aware of dollar hegemony, and if you don't want to hold dollars, I don't know what else you can hold. I mean, I would think that gold is the place to be. You certainly don't want to have silver for the countries this size. It's too much to store. It has been much more volatile. You know, you might have taken a bit of a haircut since 2015 on gold, but it hasn't been that bad. The silver has been atrocious. So there you see Russia's gold reserves now at a new record just through September. So we still got October, November, December. You know, maybe they'll add 270 tons this year. Who knows? But they're clearly got the gold fever. Here's another chart. I'll show you this one. This shows you since June of 2015, this big increase in the amount of gold that they got, which I think is, you could see they just keep adding and adding and adding. And again, it's smart. I don't know what you can read into it. I think it makes, it would be illogical for them not to be adding gold. But keep in mind, this gold, this pile is 2,065 tons. According to the Russian Central Bank, is worth $81 billion. That is less than 1 month's worth of a $200 billion QE month back in 2013. So, while it's a lot of gold, it's not worth that much. Remember, Russia also has, and let me show you this chart. That's 17% of their overall reserves, which means they hold a lot more paper than they do hold gold, and a lot of that is dollars. But here, check this out. Russia has reserves of $459 billion worth. Well, they have 17% in gold. It just shows that the idea that they're buying gold hand over fist, and that is all I need to know. Yeah, you need to know that it's not a lot of money. It's not really even a lot of gold. It looks like a lot of gold, but it's not. I'd like to have $81 billion. But if you think about it, $81 billion. There's like 125 people, individuals in the world that have more than $81 billion. You have billionaires. You got. I think someone's going to be a trillionaire soon. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money. I think Bill Gates is worth $130 billion. He could buy all of Russia's gold. Just keep that in perspective. It's not that. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not that much, and it's not even that much of their overall assets. Look what you're looking at the screen: $500 billion. So that's why when you look at I think central banks hold 10-15% of all the gold in the world. They don't hold all, but here's the gold reserves by country. Then you get in, United States doesn't have its gold and China has more. I'm not going to get into that tonight. China, the country has a lot more. Again, you listen to the same stuff over and over again. Every country on this chart. This is not the country's gold. This is the central bank's gold. There's more gold than 1,000 tons of gold in Switzerland. That's just what the Swiss National Bank has. 1,040. Swiss are lying. They have more. No. That's a gold pumper narrative that the Chinese have more gold than they say they have. No. They say that the Central Bank of China has 1,842 tons. That's probably what they have. They're the same ones who want to say China's lying, but they want the yuan to be a world reserve currency. Who's going to trust a world reserve currency if its biggest proponents and advocates think that they're a bunch of liars? I say they're not lying. Sure, there's 20,000, 30,000 tons of gold in the country. It's just not at the People's Bank of China. They don't make that argument about India. Look at India, 580 tons. India's lying. They've got more gold. Of course there's more gold in India. It's just not at the central bank. I don't know why this obsession with how much gold China has. I guess it's all part of then China's going to roll its gold into a stadium and say, show us yours, and then it's going to be game over, and then they're going to stand for delivery on COMEX. No one's looking at this rationally. But anyway, these are the gold reserves by country, and you can see where Russia is, and in a year or two, to keep it up, they will pass France and Italy and almost have as much gold as the IMF. But again, 2,400 tons of gold is under $100 billion. Not a lot. As I mentioned, there was a point in QE3 where they were doing $200 billion a month. They did $4.1 trillion in QE overall. What else do we got? What else do we got for central banks are buying gold? Well, I did mention, here you can see what Russia does every month. This chart shows you they're pretty consistent buyers of gold. Some months, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months since 2014 where they bought 1 million ounces of gold. So that's a pretty good. You can see all these charts on smallgold.com. If I'm going too quickly for you, you can go there and check them out. I've already published the short video. People just want to hear 4 minutes of this. It's there. You look at it. Not much analysis. I just run through the charts. But here is where Russia gets its gold. They get high in their own supply. Well, there you go. The blue line represents their gold mining production. See, they're pretty good at it. And the red is what they add. And last year, they got, I think that's a record for them. They did 224 tons out of the 260, which is, well, I made that mistake here. 224 plus 260 is 84. It's close to 80%, isn't it? Whoop. Something wrong here. I should do this in my head quicker. It's 40. It's no, I did that wrong. Anyway, it's about 75%. But you can see that they're buying more and more of their gold, and the little bit extra they have, they ship out to China and some of it to India. So again, this highlights they're not draining the world supply. Now, granted, maybe this gold would go elsewhere if it wasn't going to the Russian central bank. But again, there's no shortage of gold. If you want gold, you can buy it. And we see every year, India, and we'll see it tomorrow, they buy 900 tons of gold on the open market. I mean, they import 900 tons of gold. It doesn't move the price. And that's why I don't believe this nonsense about the United States has no gold at Fort Knox. Why? Why wouldn't they? Because someone told you some story that they saw someone leaving in the middle of the night with all the gold? Why wouldn't the U.S. have it? Well, because they haven't audited it. So what? There's a reason they haven't audited it. They don't want anybody to think that the dollar has anything to do with gold, so they just ignore it. The idea, you have to want to believe there's no gold there, but if you think about it, if it was so important to have gold, and somehow the United States, they apothecated it, they lent it, they sent it to China, whatever these silly stories are, like J.P. Morgan has 7 trillion ounces of gold, whatever, with silver. If it was that important to have gold, don't you think the United States can print up money and buy gold and put it back into Fort Knox if somehow it was gone? I mean, look, it cost $80 billion to get 2,000 tons. It would only cost them, what, $360 billion to get to 8,000 tons again. Oh, but if they did that, they'd drive the price skyrocketing. No, they wouldn't. You can buy 1,000 tons a year, as we've seen on the markets the last 3 years, and the price goes down. India does it. So the idea that there's no gold, that's just, it's all made to make you think that there's something behind the scenes. And then when they find out there's no gold at Fort Knox, it's game over, game changer. There's all these stories. They put them out there when J.P. Morgan's 800 million ounces, they're going to let it ride. Then it's going to be game over, and it's going to be, there's all these pie in the sky stories. And the best thing about them is they don't put a date on them. They can happen at any time. So you better buy now, because you never know when the world is going to find out there's no gold at Fort Knox, and what a dramatic event that would be. Or when J.P. Morgan lets the silver price go. I don't know. Anyway, I think you've got my sense of the data that I've shown you tonight. I want to get your thoughts here. I think I got that's all the charts. So, all right, let's take a look what y'all are saying behind my back. All right. Whoa, we got a lot of questions here. Take two. Yeah, La Plata, what happened is it didn't show that I was online. It said offline, and then it went on. I don't know. I try to start at 7:30. I don't like to change if I tell everyone. I send out the notice at 7:30, but I didn't want to start talking into a blank stare, and no one was in the chat box to ask. So, Prashanti Girl is here. Hello. Pablo Pena is here. Cryptos be crashing, says Prashanti Girl. Trump has reactions. Silver should be under 14, but it's not. Why should it be? Asked Where's Barry. That's right. Maybe when DXY hits 98. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention the dollar index today was... What was it? Yeah, it went up. It's at 96.87, so it's not at 98 yet, but it did go up today. And again, unfortunately, the safe haven bid is the dollar, not gold. I buy all my gold with silver. Interesting. Prashanti Girl, agree. Indian peeps stack gold and wear both gold and silver because of tradition, not lack of... Don't know if I'm back yet, but that stream has resumed. I don't know where I got cut off, but I'll just pick it up. I was going through these numbers here. All right, I think the comment I was making here, Prashanti Girl says, agreed. Indian peeps stack gold and wear both gold and silver because of tradition, not lack of faith in government. I'll repeat that. Indian peeps stack gold and silver and wear both gold and silver because of tradition, not lack of faith in government. They're not thinking game over and game changer and China's going to crush the dollar and I better have my silver stack and I better have my gold ready when it's game over and when the COMEX defaults and when JP Morgan lets silver ride. All these stories about when it's going to happen, what's going to happen. They're not thinking about that. They buy gold and silver because they like it and because they can. That's the bulk of demand for gold and silver. It's not from watching YouTube channels and being told that credit's going to dry up and then you won't be able to buy gold at any price and Mountain House, all that stuff. Those are not the drivers of gold and silver. They're the drivers of gold and silver in these channels, but they're not the global drivers of gold and silver. All right, what else do we got? They love government for the most part. That's true. I was surprised. I did a story on when the Indian government had demonetized the rupee, and I thought it was outrageous. I thought, oh my goodness, if that ever happened here, where Trump or President at the time, Obama, went on TV and said, no, those dollar bills that you have in your pocket, they won't be worth anything on Sunday unless you turn them into the bank. And if I'd heard that, I'd say, you're out of your mind. I would think that would be like a cause for riots and stuff if that happened. And I was sympathetic to the Indian plight there. There were people who didn't have any cash. They couldn't get to a bank. They lost their savings, or they had to, they had trouble meeting payment. Whatever it was, I thought it was a real nuisance, a real nightmare. But they loved it. They were like, this is going to weed out the criminals and so on. Okay, if you like that. So, yeah, I would imagine they're not stacking for the collapse. they're buying silver and gold jewelry because they like it, and there is a value in it. I mean, I think more so gold than silver. They think they can hold on to it, give it to their kids, give it away in the dowry, and so on. All right. La Plata Peak says, getting back to Trump's reaction. Trump is water, Putin is lithium, Samantha should be on lithium because she's calcium, Nancy Pelosi is potassium. I don't get any of that. All right. Aventi is rubidium. Okay, he's got a name for all of them. Where's Barry? Trump is tantalum. Tantalum. That's the heaviest. That's the densest. There you go. I got your joke there. Where's Barry? La Plata Pleak. I was listening to his press conference on the radio today. Love him or hate him. How can one not think I can't believe Donald Trump is president? It is unbelievable. He talks with not only no filter, but with no diplomacy whatsoever. If you think about it, they're asking him as a matter of diplomacy that someone was brutally murdered officially by the government. He's basically saying, look, I don't care about that. It's a terrible thing, but he said something like, it is what it is. But we got $300 billion riding on this, and we're not going to, I mean, that is, you can make your decision based on that. And people do that all the time. Government actors do it all the time. They just don't tell you. He just came right out and said, yep, America first. He actually wrote it. It wasn't just like he said it at the press conference. He actually wrote out a declaration about why they were standing by Saudi Arabia, and he didn't hedge any of the words. He just said America first. They pay us, and they're our buddies. All right. Okay, free Baggins. Pablo Pina, Khashoggi, an American citizen. No, he was a American resident. Yes, he's a Saudi. Or was, exactly. Top of the evening. Hello, High Volta is joining us. I'm guessing there's probably scores of journalists that have died at the hands of Saudi government. Yeah, you wouldn't think this was the first. Exactly. Canada has on the table a big arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Interesting. What color is that armor? Game over, says Matt Fowler. Game changer, says Matt Foley. We have a game-changing audience here, don't we? End of the line. What is the end game? Yes, dollar collapse. U.S. dollar death blow. Dollar days are numbered. Canada's the center of the universe, says La Plata Peak. All right. Pablo Pina, why buy an ounce of gold when the same fiat amount can buy you 80 small gold mugs? Really? Seriously? If you can stack real wealth, mugs are stackable, you're good. Ed Mall, silver is fine. Definitely silver is good to go. Silver is a game changer. La Plata Peak, bank that mug gold ratio. Talk about a game changer. Absolutely. Now there's the mug Stein ratio. Beer mugs, beer steins, 80-1, silver 1 mug silver 1-1. Yep. Ed is telling us that money is metal. No, metal is money. Drones on, and yet he's still here. Excellent. Full name, under Basel III, monetary gold now qualifies as a Tier 1 asset. That's right. And is 100% valued for purpose of banking viability, meaning gold is money. And as I said, it can be exchanged amongst themselves. It is a reserve asset. That's a huge, huge difference between gold and silver. Shouldn't the IMF be added to the U.S. column? Yeah, probably. That gold, well, countries all put in the gold. It's part of theirs. But the U.S. has veto power over the IMF. They don't necessarily run it. But some say they do. Okay, the Kiwis are like Jaws movies. Each one worse than the last. That is true. Ed Mall. Gates is worth what? Trillions of pieces of beep paper printed out of thin air. All right. This is delusional when you think like that. If Bill Gates wanted to, he could buy with his papers printed out of thin air any asset on earth, including gold and silver. You're not richer because you've taken $15 and bought an ounce of gold. You have an ounce, unless you're on measure your wealth in silver. Measure your wealth in ounces. Yeah, okay, you and the other people who watch those channels. But the world doesn't. Go and try to spend your wealth, your stackable wealth, and in a store, pay your mortgage, buy a car. You can't do it. It's nuts to think that the world values paper money. Whether that's the right or the wrong thing, it's a fact. People with billions of dollars have more value than you do if you have a monster box of silver. You may think you're richer, but you're not. They have more ability to travel. They have more ability to buy houses, more ability to buy boats, goats, whatever they want. Your monster box isn't going to get you much other than you can turn it in and get those pieces of paper. And that's it. I don't know why it's hard to understand. The world doesn't think the same way that the people that preach to you on these silver and gold channels do. The world runs on fiat currency. It's you're a disinformation agent. You're a shill for the dollar. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you how the world works. I didn't make it how this works. I'm not saying I would endorse this. But this is how the world is. It's not this fantasy that I've got all these little pretty coins that I've stacked up and they're silver and they're going to protect me. If you think about it, it's half delusional. All right. Next one will be 4, right? Get the popcorn ready. The Basel Committee on Banking Standards scrapped the old Basel II framework and put a plan in place that will be fully realized by 2019. Did Venezuela get their gold back, asked Pablo Pina? I don't think so. I think they told them, no, you're going to money launder. And we did a whole show on that one. Okay. Where would the U.S. get a large amount of gold quickly? Well, first of all, first of all, I should actually break this down for I don't have all the numbers in front of me. The United States mines a decent amount of gold. They can just get it from their own mine, and in 5 years, they'd have 8,000 tons. Where does India get all its gold? And I have all this information. The United States, any country can get gold if it wanted. India and China import thousands of tons of gold every year, or every 2 years, to make it thousands. So the idea that there's no gold out there, and that the United States, if it wanted to buy gold, couldn't go and find it. The reason they don't buy it, they don't want it to be important. It's not that they don't have it, or they don't want to make a big deal out of it. They don't want people to think that the dollar is backed by gold. They want people to think, no, the dollar's not backed by gold at all. The dollar's backed by whatever we say it is. That's the purpose of fiat. That was the whole idea of getting off the gold standard was, well, if you read what Nixon said that day, August 8th or whatever it was, 1971, that the dollar is worth what it is because it's the United States. And that's what they want. They don't want people to think there's X amount of gold there, there's not X amounts of gold there. Look at it. The Russian ruble gets weaker even though they had gold to the reserves. It's a fiat system. People that like gold and silver don't understand that gold is not the tail wagging the dog. It's just the tail. It's just there. And the countries hold it. And they're smart for holding it. But in the overall credit scheme and the overall trillions of dollars in the financial system, it's a speck. Yeah, but you'll see when it all comes crashing down. Okay, yes. Maybe when it all comes crashing down, there'll be this rush to the coin store and everybody wants silver and gold. Didn't happen in 2008. It happened in 1979, 1980. The world doesn't think that way as much as they used to. You'll see. All right, I buy all my gold with silver. Let's see, what else have we got here? We got to get your mugs. Anyone get a mug today? I sent out some mugs last week, early this week. I got a lot of questions here. All right. Is the China-U.S. trade deal going to be a pumper dumper up and down on the markets? I don't know if there's going to be a trade deal. Actually, today at the press conference, it was a very belligerent mood. Trump said, China wants to do a deal, but they may not do a deal. And if they do a deal, they don't want to do a deal. Then I got $250 billion more tariffs. I'll put them on there. I'm not trying to imitate his voice, but that's the tone of his voice. One day I'll give you my Trump imitation. But he was basically saying he's going to hit them with $250 billion more if they don't come around and what they want. And so who knows? That could crash the markets, all that kind of stuff. Oh, tantalum 180 has a half-life longer than the known existence of the universe. Now that's stable. That's genius, too, in Where's Barry? It's very stable genius. Now, GSGS says, I checked with my local police. He needs a special permit to carry a mug over 12 ounces. Then don't buy the small gold beer stein, because that would get you in trouble. The small gold beer stein is classic 22. It can hold 22 ounces, and it's pure ceramic. It's a beautiful mug, but it is indeed 22 ounces. So what you're going to want to do is buy either the classic or the super classic mugs, because they are beautiful and they're undervalued. They're 10 ounces. So you can get by with the 10-ounce mug. You can see them there. Super classic on the left, $23.99 with free shipping, priority shipping, and insured. And on the right, $19.99 in the continental USA, the small gold classic mug. Super classic on the left, classic on the right. I think the USA still has gold, but it's still in the ground. Why wouldn't they have it above the ground? I don't understand this whole theory, other than if you want to believe it, that the United States got rid of its gold long ago. Why? And if they got rid of it, they felt they didn't need it. Because if they wanted it, they can go out and buy some, or they can take what they mine and bring it back in. Who's telling the United States they can't have gold? I don't understand this. That makes no sense. Why would the United States not have something that it needs? If the United States wants something, what does it do? It goes and takes it. I don't understand why the U.S. would be weak when it comes to gold. Why it wouldn't have. Okay, it would take 2 years to get 8,000 tons. But remember, this so-called problem GSGS has existed for years. They haven't had their gold. They can easily have built back 8,000 tons. Look at how much Russia bought 1,000 tons in the last 4 years on their own supply. Didn't move the market at all. It's a myth. It's just created because people want to believe it. Why would you want to believe the United States is incompetent or impotent, unable to have gold, that it's gone? Like, why? They print $4 trillion and they get away with it. They can't have a little gold? They invade countries. They get away with it. Who's stopping the United States from having gold? Someone tell me, why can't the United States have 8,000 tons of gold? Other than they don't audit it. I just explained. They don't audit it because they don't want people to even think about it. All right. I think we're done. Got no more questions here. Trump makes Ryan Leaf look good every time he does a presser. Oh, Pablo Pina, you don't have a mug? Unbelievable. Well, by the way, if you want a mug, just go over to smallgold.com and get yourself one. Or, I'll leave you the links here. You can go to the Small Gold store. You got a bigger selection. For those of you who are allowed to open carry a larger mug, I do recommend the Small Gold Beer Stein. Let me show you that one. Because the Beer Stein truly is ceramic gold. It even has some gold on it. It's a beautiful mug. And it looked, when I got mine, I looked at it and I thought, that's not 22 ounces. I got ripped off. This looks like a thin cylinder. But it does indeed hold 22 ounces of your favorite beverage. It is truly a fine piece of small Goldian mug. I can't find a picture of it. There it is. Here's one picture of it. Now look at that. That is a beautiful mug. It is indeed 22 ounces. And all your beverages taste better in that. So there's your link for it. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I got cut off a couple of times. Couldn't find some stuff. But we'll be back. And make sure you visit the Small Gold site. Check out the charts that we have up there. And check out the Small Gold sponsors. Blackout Coffee for your Small Gold mug. Kona Coffee for your Small Gold mug. And also, you can buy gold and silver through the Small Gold affiliate links. And Small Gold gets a small commission if you do that. But you pay no more, no less than if you visited those sites directly. That's Money Metals Exchange, SD Bullion, and Golden Eagle Coin. Golden Eagle Coin has the, I think they got 7 or 8 different cryptocurrencies. Very interesting looking coins. You have 1 ounce 999 silver Litecoin, Bitcoin, Monero, EOS, and so on. So please check those out. And also consider becoming a Small Gold patron. Then you can have direct access. We can email back and forth. And that's very simple to do. You just go to Patreon, Small Gold. And I can even give you that link right now. And then I'm going to let you go. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow we're going to do, night before Thanksgiving, we're going to do the Indian gold. And then you're going to see what a big deal it is. how much gold you can buy, because India buys it. Remember, India has zero, almost zero domestic mining supply. So they managed to get a lot of gold, and it gets imported, it gets refined through Switzerland, comes from a variety of countries, and it gets shipped out to India. If the United States somehow didn't have any gold, mining somehow lost 8,000 tons, apothecated, whatever they did with it, with the amount of money the United States has the world reserve currency, can print up as much as it wants, can issue debt securities. They can easily find 80, 90, $100 billion worth of gold. It's not that hard. And that's why, to me, it's ridiculous to say that they don't have it. And if they don't have it, it's because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all. And if it did matter, they'd have it. That's how I look at it. If the United States is so powerful, it's either who cares if they have gold, and if someone did care, they'd go take it, they'd make it, they buy it. All right, everyone. Yeah, Jim really knows where it is, and so does the other guy. It's a Grand Canyon. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow night. Indian gold imports for the month of September. And I'll do a short version at the beginning, so people want to watch the 4-minute video. Then go to the website, check out the charts. Then you're done. You don't have to listen to an hour of our conversation here. But thank you very much. Ciao, Pablo. Very good. Excelente. Good night, everyone.